Hello, MBA hopefuls. We are on the air with MBA Waves, your weekly vidcast talking all things business and education, streaming live every Tuesday on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. And we bring you tons of tips to help you get into a top-ranked MBA program and get up close and personal with many of these business schools that we host on the show, as well as admissions consultants and other folks in the field. And you get all your questions answered. I want to remind you that if you like this week's episode, please don't forget to like and subscribe. And today on episode number 103, we're talking to our dear friend and colleague, Marlena Corcoran of Athena Mentor. And so a huge welcome to you, Marlena. A huge welcome to Eric and Krithika, my co-hosts. And how's everyone doing?
Great.
Everyone good?
Well.
Amazing. So we're just going to dive right into it. And Marlena, I know that you've got tons of experience being an admissions consultant. I'd love you to introduce yourself to the community who's watching and listening now.
Yes, I've been working as an admissions consultant for almost 20 years now, and I take the long view on business education. So I work with people as young as teenagers who aspire to a business career and are thinking about that in college, as well as MBA candidates from around the world. I'm based in Munich and in New York.
Amazing. And hopefully we're going to see you in New York at the AGAC conference next week.
Yes.
So I'm really excited to hug all of you. So tell us a little bit about, what does it mean to be an admissions consultant? Who is an admissions consultant? And because Eric and Krithika, you guys are admissions consultants as well, I'm the one on board here that's not. Let's just unpack this for folks who are listening, so that we can figure out, how do you actually choose one?
It was important to me in choosing a name for my nascent company many years ago that it had the word mentor in the title. So I named my company after Athena Mentor, who is the goddess of war and victory. So I truly see myself as a mentor, accompanying people on their journey.
Yeah.
I love that, in the sense that as soon as you said that, I looked at the two other names of the two other brands that are on here, and that Eric's is candidate, coach, right? And coach and mentor are, they're not synonyms. They're different aspects of working with someone, coaching versus mentoring. And then also career labs, right? Labs, like creating that space for someone to be in that experimental space, and like what comes out of the labs. Did both of you think of that as well with your branding and thinking through that piece of it?
I mean, absolutely. But it's interesting how you point out that the three of us took a very different approach. Like the words we've chosen in our brands have a different color, a different hue. I've often compared, like, working as an admissions consultant. I use the word that that Marlena also just said, in terms of accompanying. We accompany them on this journey, right? It is a collaboration. It is a teammate, right? So I kind of tend to think in the sports space a lot, being somebody who's a big fan of fitness and working out and so on. And I equate, as an admissions consultant, working with my clients, it's very much like a coach or a personal trainer working with you at the gym that, gives you information, gives you incentives, advice, encourages you, supports you when it's difficult, that kind of stuff, compared to a masseur, like somebody giving a massage, where you're very much more passive. Like when you're getting a massage, you're just laying there and someone's doing all the work. When you're going to the gym and you're seeing a personal trainer, they're helping you to do the work yourself. So that's a very big difference.
Yeah, and I think Marlena is Athena personified, when you look at her blog post and everything else. And so good to be here with her today. I would say that Career Labs came out of this vision of knowing that people are going to be testing out multiple career paths. And that's a given in the 40, 50-year long career ahead of us. I'm not even talking about 30 any longer. It's like guaranteed 40 years of work for anybody who starts at 21 or something. And that's where it came out. And I know that there are two times in someone's life when they really look forward to changing their career path. And one is like probably right out of college. And the second thing would be when they're trying to look for an MBA. So that's exactly where the labs thing came into being. And I think people have to explore and know. As far as admissions consultant is considered, I would think of myself as a matchmaker, a kingmaker, many times, and of course, like the others said, a career Sherpa, guiding them through that.
That's amazing. I was thinking, could you actually be like a candidate concierge, right? Like that really, someone probably doesn't want to just have someone who's a concierge, right? Because it's just saying like, oh, it's not really getting in there, and all of you really get in there with your clients, right? And you get really close and personal. Marlena, did you want to say more about the process that's really, it's a financial investment, a time investment, and especially an emotional investment that the student or potential student candidate goes through in choosing someone? You want to say more about that?
I think we would do well to begin addressing our listeners where they are. They may be feeling hesitant about hiring an admissions consultant. As you said, it's a financial expense. And this may be the first step that someone takes in a concrete way toward the MBA, where they say, yes, I really want this, and I am ready to put a down payment on my dream. And it's an emotional investment because you have to ask yourself, is this a person in whom I can confide my dreams, whose advice I will trust? So, how do people choose a partner in this process? And I'd like to strongly suggest to everyone that they read what consultants write. Everyone on this call writes and talks to prospective MBA candidates every day. I'd like to mention a few different ways, if you haven't already started following people, how you could start. I'll speak for myself because the most important thing in a consultant is that the person be very up to date with exactly what's happening in the field. So, for example, I follow our colleague Barbara Coward. She serves as my news ticker tape. Every day she posts articles from the news, and that's one kind of information that a consultant needs. Another colleague of ours who has appeared on MBA Waves, Candy Leela Ball, she writes long posts for up to the minute how to advice timed to the admissions cycle. So it's very how to. From a big company, you could try accepted.com for thoughtful perspective based on years of industry experience, or Kritika's posts for personable, career oriented posts. And I especially enjoy her interactive polls. There are newsletters on LinkedIn. I write one on the long view on business education because I prefer to work with people for a relatively long time to figure out who they are and what they really care about. For blogs, classic blogs, I follow our incoming AGAC president, Adam Marcus, on individual schools. He's got a new one out on Columbia. Not just what's new in the Columbia prompts, but the very intelligent suggestion to write your Columbia application first, because it will force you to focus sharply on a goals essay and a why us essay. And those are fundamental to any MBA application. And finally, dare I mention that some of us write for well-known publications such as Forbes or HBR Ascend. HBR Ascend is a special arm of Harvard Business Review aimed at young professionals to help them succeed in their careers. And frankly, publication in one of those venues is a fairly clear indication that the author is well respected in their field. So by reading these different genres, different voices, you get not only a sense of what particular admissions consultants are like, but you learn a lot about admissions. And by this time, our listeners may be wondering, well, why do they give all this information away for free? And I think my colleagues would join me in saying, we actually want you to be well informed. That's our goal. And we suspect that you will still be looking for expert advice on, but what does this mean for me? What's the best strategy for me? What would the rest of you think?
Yeah, I 100% agree. I mean, as you just cited, most of us are writing, whether it's blogs, articles. I write a book series, and that just shows you what people are thinking, right? It shows the expertise, it shows the up-to-date knowledge of what's going on. And the fact that we give this away for free, same in my circles of friends and colleagues, we say, "Oh, aren't you just giving away?" No. As you said, we want we want the public to be well informed, and then very likely they'll want that customized feedback on their particular, CVs, essays, and preparing their interviews. We give a lot of great information that I think is indicative of our proximity to the schools, our relationships with the admissions committees, and we know what they're looking for and can give specific feedback on your essays and so forth based on that knowledge. So it's the tip of the iceberg, what we do give away for free. And there is a lot of great free information. Also on the AGAG website itself, this organization that we all belong to, there's loads of great resources, including, I know this is in the process of being updated, but with all the round one admissions deadlines, that should be updated very shortly. Good suggestions and tips about going about getting references, how to go about your essays, all of this key information. But again, that is general. Nothing beats having customized individual feedback that you have working with a one-to-one coach. And I have to apologize, I've lost my voice, so I'm doing my best to get out my words. What about you, Kritika?
Is Kritika frozen?
She might be frozen.
You're frozen. I'm thinking also about how we always talk about the business school application process as your first really big business decision, and all of the different pieces of what you're doing is how would you as a business professional be making that decision, right? And from the test prep to the admissions consultant to doing your research, it's like you really want to be an informed consumer. And as a business leader, you also want to know, like, what is the company all about? What is their ROI? What is the profit and loss? Like, you really want to get into the weeds, because this is actually a business decision for yourself. And it's like Me Inc., right? And you are that end product that you take advantage of all the free information and look to see, like, is it all really supporting each other, or are there different philosophies of how to do it? I know that some people in the admissions space come from a journalism background. Some come from a admissions background. They used to work in an admissions office. Some of them worked in an admissions office undergrad, not necessarily business school. Some of them went to business school themselves, and they just know what the process is. So there's all different backgrounds, and there's all different personalities that come from all the different backgrounds. So I'm curious what both of you think. What is the problem that admissions consultants are solving for the candidates? Like, what are the solutions? What is the problem that's being solved?
You want to start one off, Marlena?
Well, I'll tell you what it's not. As Eric knows, I studied in France, and the French way of approaching a problem is usually to define what it's not. It's not just a final grammar check on someone's essays. In fact, I decline to do that anymore, because what I usually find out is that given their experience and their goals, they're applying to the wrong schools or presenting the wrong story. And I can't bear it at that point. So that's why I prefer to work with people in a longer way and really work with them to find out what is their goal. They have to state that clearly in an essay, but there's a lot of fundamental work to be done before that essay even begins to find out really what is their goal, what do they want.
Right.
And sometimes we know that, usually we don't. But it's, for me, one of the most rewarding aspects of our work.
Yeah, absolutely. Just jumping in at the end of the process just to correct spelling and grammar. I mean, anyone can do that. This is not tapping into your or our best resources, experiences, and knowledge, right? I like to begin the process with what I call a storytelling interview, where the first meeting I have once the client commits to working with me to sit down, I have the same set of 15 questions that I ask everyone. And it's really to get to know them because we're first meeting, right? But also to uncover some of those nuggets, some of those real little pearls that are going to play well into either your essays or your even into your CV. We talked about personal branding a few episodes ago, and it's all of those different aspects or elements of your application where you get to, demonstrate your brand and the things that you want to talk about, things that are going to make you simultaneously stand out but also fit into this program. Because that's it. You want to be unique enough that you're going to contribute something different to the batch, to the class, but also not too different that you're such an outlier it doesn't make sense to include you in this class. It's a very fine line. And I think that is something that is very difficult to find on your own. And consultants, admissions consultants, are essentially a mirror that we listen to you and we reflect back to you things that you've told us, things that you've shared, things that you might have not ever given credence to as interesting or relevant for an admissions application. And yet, hang on, that thing that you've said there, that is going to really help you and get you in. And that's beautiful, it's joyful, and that's what makes it interesting and fun for me. Because like the schools, more or less they stay the same each year. It's the people, the individuals that come in each year that have their own stories, that have their own unique experiences or aspects of who they are that make it all worth it and fun.
And often people don't know which detail or which argument or which experience is really going to stand out. They think, oh, that has nothing to do with business school. And they don't realize that that may be what causes a reader who is on their 200th application of the day, and it's actually 2:00 at night, to say, this is the person. We have to have this person because this is what I haven't heard before.
Yeah, absolutely. Kritika, you were going to say something.
Yeah, one of the things. Yeah, I hope that I'm audible now. I'm so sorry for the slight, hiccup there. But I wanted to say that, like Marlena and Eric said, I wanted to start with where the client is and then help them decide where they want to go. And in the process, fit in the MBA, because that's where many of them would do. We typically do it with a profile gap analysis, and definitely we start with the resume. Resume, the reason being that for many of the people, it's the very first time that they're looking at their whole careers with a business lens. Because till then, they would have been an individual contributor or somebody who's always looking at a certain piece of the puzzle. But then now they step back and they're looking at their own life through the business lens to see how they would fit into a management program and then later as a leader. So I like to start by thinking about where they want to go, but look at where they are and then help them fill the gaps.
And that where they want to go can't be the name of a school. That is, the MBA is a means, not an end.
Sure. Yeah.
So all of you are bringing up, Eric, you talked about, like, don't come to me the last week to do your proofreading, right? So let's talk about timing for just a moment. Like, when in the process should someone, like Marlena, should they hire? Marlena, you're talking about the long game, right? You're talking about, as a teenager, they might want to go to business school, but I assume you also have clients that are coming to you that are not teenagers anymore, that might be working, right? So you probably have a range of students, but have the specialty where you are working with some that are younger and know that they want to go into business, and you can have the long game plan. But for the average or maybe not so average? Like, when do people actually seek out admissions consultants? When is it too early? When is it too late? How do you work with timing?
It's never too early because too late in the game, you no longer have the time to, for example, build in experience outside of work that might um, give a three-dimensionality to what you claim you want to do. Because if you claim you want to do something, your job has been entirely different, you have no experience, why is anyone supposed to believe that? And you might change your mind a few days later. So I happen to think that volunteer experience is a great thing. Also, as a volunteer, you get rapidly promoted to as much responsibility as you can handle. So it's also a great way to show leadership. So one of my main messages today is I would love for people not to think of admissions consultants as simply someone who reviews the final essay. Let us help you shape your life.
Eric or Kritika, how about you, timing wise? Where are you with when you might even say, I can't work with you, it's too close to the.
I mean, if somebody's coming to me asking for services and it's like the deadline's just a couple of weeks away, it depends where they are in the process. That might include me advising them to delay by an admissions round or even a whole application cycle. Like if they're applying for a top school and it's clear that they've not done the work, they're not prepared, the best thing I can do for them is to be honest with them and tell them that, hey, you should, if you want to get in, your chances are not very high, based on what you've done right now. I mentioned the storytelling interview. I mean, for me, one of the second piece I do is what I call researching and soul searching. It's this process of really going deep into it. Like, first of all, who am I? What am I good at? What do I enjoy? What's going to make me money? What are the industries that I should be targeting if I want to make a change? And what markets in the world, what countries, what cities, what regions are doing well in those industries? And finally, what are the schools that are going to bridge that gap between my version of myself today to my future self? So that whole kind of triangulation is really a big part of the process in that research. And I think people spend a lot of time on the GMAT, and that is important. I think they also spend not enough time on reflection and essay writing and all those other things. Because while the GMAT is important, especially when it comes to scholarship, it is a number, and we are humans. It has its role in that number, but we are so much more than that. We are here all as professionals, but we are human. We are people, and we like connection. And if you're going to be a leader in business, you need to be able to relate to people, to inspire, to cultivate trust, and to get people to follow your vision. And so the human side of this application is so important. And I think the essay is one of your first opportunities to articulate that, and the experiences that you've had, and the goals that you see for yourself, and why this school at this time is the right vehicle to get you to those goals.
I think that the whole
I would
process itself is like, if you think about it, you have something that is like that number, right? You've got the GMAT. It's not just any number. It's a number that compares you to everyone else. And it's the least personal to the most personal, right? The interviews and the essays. So it really runs like a nice broad arc of really understanding who you are in the entire process. And you have opportunities to shine, right? And so you'll be bringing on different professionals as needed based on what you need to improve upon in the whole arc that exists there. Kritika, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I was gonna analogy here, which I always like. It's like people with the GMAT. It's like you starting at the start of the marathon, and you're like full energetic and energized, and you want to get it done. But then as you go through the messy middle, and of course you want to go to the finish line, you're losing energy, and sometimes you don't even make it. And that's exactly what happens with especially the essays. So you don't really put in or invest the time that you need to do. And actually speaking, the essays, your interviews, and your recommendations would count much more than the GMAT itself. So that's exactly why you recommended, like, when would I never take somebody. We don't take anybody with less than even like a month out. We just need them to have at least a month, and that's when they have a GMAT score in hand. But then we also like start working with students much ahead of time. Like, so we typically recommend them to join us a year before, so that they can work on the GMAT, and then they work on all the brainstorming and the thinking that needs to go into the applications.
So what about hiring a consultant, right? What are the kinds of questions that people should ask or look at? I love what you said, Marlene, about all the resources that you gave from our colleagues like Candy and Barbara, like that's and Linda, the wonderful resources. But in actually making the step to hire someone, what would a person do? How would they find someone? What kinds of questions should they ask? And I mean, Kritika, you talked about like almost matchmaking. I think you were talking about matchmaking with a university or a business school, but like it's also matchmaking with who's going to be your mentor or coach or, scientist in the lab, right? Like who's going to be your colleague through this? How do you do that?
I don't know any among my friends and colleagues who don't offer a free of charge exploratory call. And it's as much for us to see whether we're the right person to help with what the prospective client needs, as for the MBA hopeful to decide whether we are the right person for them. I think that someone should do the preliminary research that I suggested for their own benefit as well as for the purpose of hiring a consultant. But once you do that, I think you'll find that we are surprisingly approachable.
And Eric and Kritika, do you have any
If I want to add,
suggestions?
right. So for this one, I would say that, for example, it depends on how much and how much like help do you need, how many hours do you need. Some of them are more coaching versus consulting. So, and again, some of them are like big companies versus small companies versus solopreneurs. So I think a lot of factors are there, and of course, many of them choose cost as also one of the reasons for picking. So I would say that there are many factors, but I would say at least shop for many before deciding on the one.
Yeah, for sure. Marlena started speaking about like reading what consultants have written, and that's a good place to start. But then, as she also said, nearly every consultant would offer a free consultation, I call it a discovery call. Usually it's about a 15-minute, maybe 20-minute get to know, okay, what are your goals? Let me know your profile. Let me have a look at your CV, your resume, and your LinkedIn. And then let me tell you a little bit about my process. And listen, ask questions. I think you should come prepared with a few good questions so that call is efficient, so that you feel you walk away with a good sense of what that person can offer, what they're about, what their personality is like, and do you guys click? Because if you're going to work closely with them, first of all, there has to be an element of trust. Not only are they competent, do they know their stuff, but do you trust them to share aspects of your life? Because although this is about your career, our personal lives are very much intertwined with the decisions we make about why we may choose a certain school in a certain country, because of any variety of reasons, why I want to stay home, why I want to go abroad. That involves things like partners, like husband, wife, and so forth, kids, sometimes parents, even pets. Believe me, I've heard it all. Why one might choose a certain school over another. So yeah, come to the call with some questions, so you feel that you've walked away with a good sense of what they're about and what they can offer. And that's how you kind of know. And as Kritika just said, speak to a few, a minimum three, maybe four, so you can compare and see who you feel most comfortable with, and confident that you're going to have the highest success possible.
I'd also ask your friends.
Yeah.
Usually people come to me, frankly, because another family has referred them.
Right, referrals. Like I think that both test prep an admissions consultant. It's just really a referral driven business because the real, I mean, the truth is the really big test prep companies might spend hundreds of thousands of dollars a month on advertising, and most of us don't have hundreds of thousands of dollars a month to spend on marketing. So that really brings up, like, also in our worlds, like really big admissions consultant companies versus solopreneurs, right? Like there's a gamut of different types of operations, right? And different, you might want a different experience. And I don't know if anyone can really speak to the solopreneur or the small organization versus really large. Can any of you speak to those different factors in admissions consultants land?
I mean, definitely the majority of my clients have been referred by, a friend who's already worked with me. So there's for sure that process. Of course, there's MBA Waves. People see us there. People see my books. And I do attend a lot of MBA fairs and write articles all over the place, appearing with, like, say, Access MBA or the MBA Tour and so forth. So there's all of that, but majority is referral, absolutely.
Do you want to speak to like large organizations that have a lot of admissions consultants versus solopreneur? Do you have anything to?
There's something I'd like to say about hiring a solopreneur is that you're not really hiring just one person. That especially if the consultant belongs to AGAC, the chances are excellent that that person has a network. You can count on them to keep your confidence, but you can also count on them to reach out to one of their close colleagues if they feel they need advice. As I began by saying, we read one another's posts and newsletters and blogs. So we have a pretty good sense. Even if I decide I'm not really the person for someone, I might know who is. So a solopreneur is really a network of individuals.
Versus probably an organization that might have a certain flavor, maybe. I don't know.
So I would like to speak about the large organizations, and I would say that if you're looking for a consultant, don't look any further than the AGAC directory. You have all sorts of firms there, and trust me that, as Marlena said, if one firm doesn't suit you, there are going to be so many others that can help you as well. Speaking of the larger organization or so, we do know that many of the organizations, whether large or small, make sure that the admissions consultant is somebody who has got experience, either by being an admissions director or by actually being an admissions consultant themselves for quite some time. So it's imperative that you probably don't go to somebody who also probably just went to business school versus somebody who's trained in the field. And I think that's a distinction that people have to make. It's not like, I mean, I'm not saying that all people who go to business school cannot be admissions consultants, is what probably I'm saying, rather than the other way around, right? Admissions consultants don't need to go to business schools, but just because you went to business school doesn't mean that you gain the credibility to help someone else steer the same path, right? So I think that's one of the biggest things that has to happen, because even though your friend or colleague or somebody else, or even your boss who went to the same school, can guide you, it's probably not going to be the same, like the approach that needs to come with someone else who's willing to give you the hard feedback and also help you course correct when you need to.
Yeah, I found.
I would add that no matter where the person started, because most of us come to this as a second career, what matters is how up to date the person is today. The efforts that they make to stay in touch with what's going on. And you can tell that again by what they write. How often do they write? Where do they publish?
Yeah, as Kritika said, like, look no further than looking at AGAC members. You have all different kinds of admissions consultants, from solopreneurs to medium to large size organizations. And one of my favorite things about being an AGAC member is the Summer with the School series, where during the months of July, end of June, July, August, each week there's several schools, top ranked schools, that we have this contact with the admissions directors, and we are learning the most up to date information, things they're looking for in applicants, and so forth. And I'm particularly excited about this year because everyone knows that wave, that exodus of admissions directors last fall, from Harvard to Stanford to Michigan Ross and so forth, where we have a whole bunch of new admissions directors at top schools, and as we all know, when the head changes, the body follows. And so there's going to be a shift in culture, perhaps a shift in criteria. We don't know yet, but I'm very curious to learn what the new directors of these top schools is going to be looking for and expecting, and also what the programs have to offer. We get little updates on new courses, new scholarships, and so forth. So it is about, again, proximity of relationship and being up to date on what's going on.
Plus the numbers, right? The numbers this year are going to be, with all of these software companies and all of these consulting companies laying off so many people, it's going to be even more important, because if there's more people that are applying, then it's going to make it much more competitive. So even more reason to consider bringing someone on your team to help you, bringing someone to work through, because there's more people that you're competing against.
Totally.
And to figure out exactly what your story is so that you can distinguish yourself from many others who may be very similar to you. And to fix your goals and get them clear, because your reason for applying for an MBA can't be you don't know what else to do with yourself.
I know.
Absolutely.
So that storytelling, I think it's key in what each one of us does. And no, we don't write your essays for you.
No, that does not. No. In fact, you can't be a member of AGAC if you do that. There's a pretty intense vetting process, and we have not accepted folks in to AGAC because it's a little bit murky in knowing exactly what the consultant has done. You won't get that with anyone that's worth their salt. How much time and investment is there that someone needs to spend with an admissions consultant? What does it look like?
I mean, there's some people that choose to go for an hourly rate. Other people who want to go for the package. Most consultants offer packages where it's unlimited contact, like meetings, calls, essay review, and so forth. It really depends on the person. Some reasons why people might want to go hourly is they have a limited budget, or perhaps they want to get to know and test out actually working with the consultant before they commit to a full package, and then perhaps they'll convert later. Sometimes it's about they're not sure how many schools they want to apply yet. They might, I'll go for a package just for like 1 or 2 schools and then add on later. And usually I think consultants will all prorate and adjust it based on updated choices in terms of the schools they're applying for. I mean, look, all of us are there for the success of the client, of the applicant, and your success is our success, obviously. So yeah, those are some of the reasons why they might choose to go for hourly versus. But I think at the end of the day, having that, you don't have to count hours, and having that unlimited support until it is done, you have the best version of your application you could possibly submit. And then when it comes to the interview phase, knowing that you can take as much time as you need to really be 100% confident and comfortable in delivering the message you want to say, knowing that for each school that you've prepared responses for the questions are typically asked, because you can learn a lot from Reddit, you can learn a lot from different blogs about what's being asked from other applicants, and having customized, at the same time not being robotic about it. It's not like you're just spitting out pre-organized phrases, but that you have a sense of what you want to say depending on the school. And that when you get a question, that you're comfortable and just you can act natural and share something that answers the question, but also delivers the right branding that you want to transmit about yourself and that that the school is looking for.
I would suggest that people consider the cost of admissions counseling, as I think of it, as part of the cost of acquiring an MBA, earning an MBA.
Sure.
There's really no separating the two. Your MBA starts today.
It's what I was saying before, right? Like the application process is your first case study ultimately, right? In being a leader in business school, for sure. How much time though do you spend with, even if there's a range, how much time do you wind up spending with students? I know that Eric, you're talking about hourly, but can someone be like, I just want to hire someone for 2 hours, but is like the average amount of time 20 hours, 50 hours? How much, what's the average or what's the range of time that people can expect to actually work directly with a consultant?
So here, so I would say like it depends, and I would say like it depends on when they start. So if you start earlier, it actually takes lesser time. It is the truth, But and the average for us is around 25, and it can go anywhere up to. There was a candidate who went up to 50, um, and there was one like who was able to do it with under 5. So it really depends on that. But the average for us is around 25. And Bara, to your earlier point, I wanted to add that admissions consultants are probably the only folks who would also be working like Santa and their elves, and making sure that you're able to send all your applications to Harvard and Stanford on Jan 3rd and Jan 4th and Jan 5th every year. Sacrificing the holidays for you. So that's also another thing that probably you might want to take into account, knowing that it's probably an industry where the timings are not necessarily so aligned with the holidays. So when everyone else is like probably on a break, you're going to be like slogging it out and making use of the break in order to get out your applications.
Neat. Great. Is there anything that I have not asked that you think is important for someone who's in the process of choosing an admissions consultant for them to consider? Or did I cover everything they need to know?
We talked about, reading people's blogs and so forth. We talked about referrals, but I think testimony also, it's indirect referrals, right? This is referrals of people you don't know. And so most consultants will have testimony of previous clients on their website, so you can see the kind of experiences they've had, as well as the schools that they've applied to and were admitted to. So it is about results, right? Working with somebody that has had success, helping, supporting people who are applying for these top schools, there's a better chance that will be the case for you as well.
Any other last minute nuggets of advice or focus that anyone wants to contribute? Going once.
I've never heard another admissions consultant say, I really hate my work. I can't stand it when I get up in the morning and I just can't bear sitting down. I see you all laughing. It's true. So if I were to end on a certain note, it would be that. We like what we do, and we hope you're going to like the process too.
It is such a great process.
Yeah, I would just like piggyback on that as well, saying that I always say you should have the joy and and curiosity, and like go at it through that lens, because otherwise it's going to be such a laundry list of chores. Finish the GMAT, get your CV done, get your essays done, and oh no, there are 3 more essays for this goal. Oh, they are different, and it's just gonna be a laundry list of a lot of things to do, which involves tons of multitasking. So that's exactly why you need a partner who knows how to maneuver that, and then help you take the smooth path out. And as I think Eric mentioned before, and even Marlena, we are partners in the journey, and you do need partners to navigate this. And there will be like sometimes you need a shoulder to cry on, and sometimes you need somebody to like open the champagne bottle with. So for both, admissions consultants are probably going to be the people there for you.
And I would add somebody to kick your butt into gear sometimes when you're slacking off. We need all 3 of those. We have our friends to do that in our personal lives, and this is somebody who can help you do that for your academic/career. Yeah. And I think, it takes a certain kind of personality a person to want to work in this kind of field. It takes somebody who really likes people, who likes to help people, who likes to impart knowledge, and likes to win. Because like we're rooting for you, and we want our clients to get into those schools. And every time that happens, it is like such a feeling of joy. And yeah. So anyway, thanks, Bara, for all these questions. Oh, you're on mute.
I think also, like, because we're at business school's leadership school, given the way the world is, it is really wonderful when we get these clients knowing that great leaders are coming into our midst, and that change can happen and good things can be on the horizon that are making the changes. So I do think that, I do thank my colleagues for ushering in people meeting their goals and also helping shape their own vision so that they can get closer to their goals. So thank you all for the work that you all do. I want to thank everyone here. I want to thank our audience and anyone who joined us online. I especially want to thank Marlena for joining us of Athena Mentor. The insights that you shared are going to help people choose their admissions consultants with a lot more clarity and head them in the right direction. And for those of you who are watching, if you like today's episode, please give us a thumbs up. We're always open to comments and suggestions, and please subscribe to MBA Waves. And to stay on top of all the latest trends and news in the world of MBAs, business, and education, follow us. And don't forget to check us out next week, the same time and the same place, for full access of upcoming past episodes. Go to mbawaves.com. And I wish everyone a great week. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.